You've been told paper money was invented in Europe during the Renaissance. That's wrong. China created it 1,000 years earlier, not as innovation, but as desperation. And when it collapsed, it didn't just destroy an economy, it erased trust in paper currency for 6 centuries. Now, China is doing it again. But this time, the paper is gone entirely. And once you see what really happened and what's happening now, you can't unsee it. Welcome to the wealth timeline, where money, power, and history quietly shape the world around us. Because the story of China's currency isn't just about coins or codes, it's about what happens when governments realize money is not just a tool, it's a weapon. The year is 1024 AD. The Song Dynasty is the most advanced civilization on Earth. Gunpowder, printing presses, canal systems that move grain across thousands of miles. But there's a problem. Copper is heavy, trade is exploding, merchants are literally drowning in coins. So the government does something no one has ever tried before. They print money. Not as a representation of value, as value itself. At the time, this seemed brilliant. What no one noticed was the cost. Paper money wasn't born from genius. It was born from crisis. By the early 11th century, the Song Dynasty was running out of copper. Demand for coins had skyrocketed, but metal supply couldn't keep up. Merchants in Sichuan province, one of the wealthiest trading hubs, started issuing private notes called jiaozi. These weren't money, they were receipts. Deposit your heavy copper coins, get a lightweight paper note, trade it like cash. The system worked because it was backed by something real. Then the government noticed. In 1024, the Song court nationalized the system. They began issuing official paper currency, guanzi, backed by government reserves of copper, silver, and grain. The promise was simple. Bring us this paper and we'll give you metal. For decades, it worked flawlessly. Trade accelerated, tax collection became efficient. The economy boomed. But buried in that success was a single dangerous assumption that the government would always honor the promise. It worked, but only under conditions that would not last. By the 12th century, paper currency had become the backbone of Song Dynasty commerce. Merchants no longer hauled copper across provinces. Tax collectors could move wealth without armed escorts. The state could finance wars, infrastructure, and famine relief without draining metal reserves. It was revolutionary. But every success introduced a temptation. When war broke out with the Yuan Dynasty in the north, military spending exploded. The government needed funding fast, but raising taxes was politically dangerous. So they printed more notes, at first cautiously, then aggressively. The backing ratio, the amount of real wealth supporting each note, began to slip. Reserves stayed flat while the money supply doubled, then tripled. No one panicked. Because inflation was gradual, prices rose slowly, and as long as people accepted the notes, the system appeared stable. Economists call this monetary erosion. Dynasties called it temporary flexibility. The problem was simple. Once you start printing without restraint, stopping becomes politically impossible. Each new war, each famine, each palace project demanded more funding. And paper was always easier than taxes. By the time the southern Song Dynasty fell in 1279, the currency was nearly worthless. The stronger it became, the harder it was to stop. The Mongol Yuan Dynasty inherited a broken system. When Kublai Khan conquered China in 1271, he faced a choice: restore metal-backed currency or double down on paper. He chose paper, but he went further. In 1287, Kublai Khan issued a decree. All transactions must use government paper money. Gold, silver, and copper coins were banned from private trade. Citizens were ordered to exchange their metal for notes at government-set rates. This wasn't currency, it was control, and for a while it worked. The Mongols enforced the system brutally. Counterfeiting carried the death penalty. Merchants who refused paper money faced execution. The state controlled every transaction, every price, every flow of wealth. Trade continued. The empire functioned. But the metal reserves backing the currency, they were static. The money supply expanding exponentially. By 1350, hyperinflation had destroyed the Yuan economy. Prices for rice, salt, and cloth skyrocketed. Farmers refused to sell crops for worthless paper. Black markets in silver and gold flourished. Rebellions erupted, not just over taxes, but over money itself. The dynasty fell in 1368. Nothing collapsed instantly, and that was the problem. The Ming Dynasty rose from the ashes in 1368 with one clear lesson: paper money cannot be trusted. The new emperor, Hongwu, initially tried to continue the paper system. He issued Baochao notes, backed by strict regulations and limited supply. But the trauma was too deep. Merchants hoarded silver. Peasants refused notes. Officials demanded payment in metal. By 1450, the Ming government quietly abandoned paper currency altogether. For the next 500 years, through the Ming and Qing dynasties, China returned to silver and copper coins. Paper money had failed so catastrophically that it became a cultural taboo. Historians call this the Great Monetary Regression. From this point on, trust in government-issued currency was no longer optional. It was gone. The collapse of paper money reshaped China's economy for centuries. Silver became the dominant currency, not government-issued silver, but foreign silver, flowing in from Spanish colonies in the Americas through trade. This had profound consequences. China's monetary system became dependent on global silver flows. When silver supplies dropped, as they did in the 17th century, deflation crushed the economy, famines spread, tax revenues collapsed, the state lost control. And here's the critical insight. The failure of paper money didn't just destroy an economy, it destroyed the concept that value could exist without physical backing. For 6 centuries, Chinese merchants, officials, and citizens operated on one principle. If you can't hold it, it's not real. That belief persisted until the 20th century, until the communist revolution forced a new system into existence, but the memory remained. Fast forward to 2020. China launches the Digital Yuan, the world's first central bank digital currency deployed at scale. It's not paper, it's not metal, it's code, and it has one feature no currency in history has ever had: total traceability. Every transaction is recorded, every wallet is monitored. The government can freeze funds, set expiration dates, and control where money can be spent in real time. This isn't speculation, it's documented policy. The digital yuan is programmable. If the state wants to stimulate consumption, they can issue currency that expires if not spent within 30 days. If they want to restrict capital flight, they can geofence transactions. It's the ultimate evolution of Kublai Khan's 1287 decree. Not a ban on private money, but total visibility and control over all money. China calls it modernization. Critics call it surveillance. But here's the parallel that should concern anyone paying attention. The Song Dynasty didn't collapse because paper money was inherently flawed. It collapsed because trust was severed the moment printing became unrestrained. The Yuan Dynasty didn't fail because digital records didn't exist. It failed because coercion replaced legitimacy. The question isn't whether digital currencies work. The question is, who controls the system and what happens when trust breaks? History doesn't repeat events, it repeats incentives. 2 lessons echo across 1,000 years. First, money is only as stable as the institutions behind it. When governments prioritize control over legitimacy, currencies don't collapse instantly. They erode, slowly, until the breaking point arrives without warning. Second, technological advancement doesn't eliminate old risks, it magnifies them. Paper money gave emperors the ability to print without restraint. Digital currency gives states the ability to see and control without limit. The Tang invented paper money out of necessity. The Song expanded it into an empire-wide system. The Yuan weaponized it into total control. The Ming abandoned it for 5 centuries. And now, China has returned, not with paper, but with something far more powerful. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden chapter of history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Wealth Timeline, and turn on the bell icon, because the next story might just change how you see power itself.